So today we're going to talk about different ways that film is used. There are ways that you can use visuals in film to indicate certain things. There is this concept of proximity. The person's position to the camera can affect how you feel about certain things. The easiest way to think of that is if you've ever seen a jump scare when something creepy flashes in front of the camera, you get that jolt. That's almost like this instinctual reaction. So in that regard, you can think of proximity as a tool, position of the subject to the camera as a tool for how it feels. When a close-up is way too close, your reaction may be to recoil a little bit, So proximity can be used in that way. And we'll show examples of that. Then there's symbolism. So symbolism can be anything. You can use color to symbolize certain things. We're going to watch an awesome video about color. So I'm going to post a link, and we'll watch that. But symbolism can be pretty obvious, right? Like a crucifix, right? That's symbolic. And then you can have metaphor within a film. In simplest terms, you're seeing something that actually represents something else. And so we're going to show an example of that. So we're going to watch this video of Andrei Tarkovsky. He was asked to give advice to young filmmakers. If you don't know who Andrei Tarkovsky is, people bring him up a lot when you're studying film production. He directed the original Solaris and Nostalgia. Stalker is another really amazing film. We're going to watch a couple of videos down the road about color and about Tarkovsky films, and some of his stuff is really amazing. So yeah, this video, he was asked to give advice to young filmmakers. So let's not talk about this too much. We're just going to watch this video.
Se lei dovesse parlare a dei giovani registi, quali potrebbero essere le sue raccomandazioni principali?
Сейчас все снимают кино, все считают, все умеют снимать кино, понимаешь? Все, кому не лень. Нетрудно научиться склеивать пленку, снимать фильм. Но самое главное, что я бы посоветовал тем, кто начинает работать в кино, это что, чтобы он научился не отделять свою работу, свой фильм, кино от жизни, которую он живет. То есть, чтобы он не делал разницы между фильмом, своей работой и собственными поступками. Вот что самое главное. Потому что режиссер это такой же художник, как живописец, поэт, музыкант. И поскольку от него требуется, так сказать, отдавать всего себя целиком, то довольно странно бывает наблюдать, режиссеров, которые, относятся к своей работе как к какому-то положению особому, которое их поставила судьба, и просто эксплуатируют свою профессию. То есть они живут одним способом, а картины снимают совершенно о другом. То есть я хотел бы сказать режиссерам, прежде всего молодым, о том, что они должны отвечать морально, нравственно за те поступки, которые они совершают, делая фильм. Понимаешь? Это самое главное. Ну и во-вторых, то, чтобы они приготовили к себе к той мысли о том, что кино слишком тяжелое, серьезное. Искусство, оно требует жертву тебя. И ты должен принадлежать ему, а не оно принадлежать тебе. Кино использует тебя жизнь, а не наоборот. Поэтому я думаю, что вот это самое главное для... То есть нужно служить, нужно отдавать себя в жертву искусству. Потому что я в последнее время, когда об этом думал, в отношении своей профессии.
Metaphor within films and symbolism within films can be interpreted in different ways, and that's the wonderful thing about art. So when I go through this, this is my interpretation of what I'm seeing. When we start the video, notice this gentleman sitting in front of a typewriter, which is really odd because it's supposed to be a sort of letter. You know, what would you recommend to new filmmakers as advice? And so the fact that he starts at a typewriter, to me, is sort of saying that it's something about writing the word, not just reading a letter. So, you know, he's talking about how hard it is to glue film. Obviously, he's talking about when you actually had to cut negatives and then glue them back together, which is something I did really early on in my career at the University of Hartford, was like to show students how to glue film together and make splices, although they used tape when I was there to tape their negatives together. If we look at his posture here, you know, one of the things that we learned in filmmaking is that nothing really happens by accident unless it's like a really bad mistake that's obvious. But if you look at his position, he basically looks like a crucified Jesus, right? It's to me, the posture is pretty hard to deny, especially with his leg crossed and his arms up like that. He deliberately puts his hand up. He puts his head down, like you see in various statues. And so we see that posture. To the left, there is a cross, and it's crooked. And then to the right, there is a cross, and it is straight. And in the story of the crucifixion, there was a thief who was unrepentant, a crooked thief who would not repent, and then there was a thief that repented. And the crooked thief was to the left, and the repentant thief was to the right. Now, you could say, okay, you're pulling this out of nowhere, except that he is posed like Christ in the crucifixion, and he's literally talking about sacrifice as a special position given to them by destiny. He starts talking about destiny. They should be morally responsible. Okay, so he's talking about moral responsibility. Okay, and requires sacrificing yourself. So now he's talking about sacrifice, and he does this weird head turn, and you could almost maybe interpret it as seeing a dead person, right? There's something about this that seems coffin-like, or he's on the cross or something like that. And then it's more obvious. You should sacrifice yourself to the art. Okay, so here's something weird. This is the end of the video, and he cuts to empty chairs. No one in the shot while he's still talking. So, to me, indicating that someone was there and then someone was not there, right? So, you can interpret that as the resurrection. So, it's a metaphor for the death and resurrection of Christ, the written word. He's writing. He's crucified. He dies. He's resurrected. Okay. Now, if he wasn't talking about morality and sacrifice so much in this video, maybe you could sort of talk away these things as coincidences. But that's the thing about film. There aren't really coincidences. Am I just interpreting it, or is it a real thing? Well, think of it in terms of, does it work? If someone's talking about sacrifice and morality, and we show subtle imagery of Christ on a cross, Do you think that gives more weight to the argument? It probably would. So you have to think of it in terms of, does it work? And if it works, if his message is backed up by the metaphor, then it's probably real. He probably did it deliberately. This was blocked in a very specific way. This is sort of like a film school in itself. You see a nice pan up, and the pan up becomes a sort of over the shoulder, and then from there he leaves frame. It becomes a sort of wide shot, wide-ish, medium. He then walks into a two-shot. The two-shot becomes a medium when he turns his head away, and then this is just a wide. But to see it as a whole, my thinking is that is what this is really about. And it does mirror the message that he's trying to say. So that is so the symbolism would be the crucifix, and then the metaphor is the overall telling of the New Testament, right? In regard to how it compares to the sacrifice filmmakers should make. Now, some people have said that Tarkovsky didn't truly believe in symbolism. He believed in symbolism only in regard to the characters, what the characters felt. So symbolism exists to the characters. But in this case, for me, I think it's pretty hard to deny. Here's the thing. Even if you don't see what I'm getting at, or you disagree, at the very least, this should kind of open a door to you to see how you can use metaphor and symbolism in your films. You're showing something that actually is a reference to something else, and it can be a very powerful tool. So these are things we can use. So next we're going to talk about, we're going to watch a video on color. The video is so good that I just want to give you the YouTube link and have you watch it. I want to make sure the guy gets the credit for it because it's an amazing video. Okay, so let's watch that next.